YouTube. Hello, Clear Vision Wednesday. It's Claudia Mühlenweg and the Clear Vision Wednesday show. And today I have a very special guest, my friend Maria Horstmann. And our topic today is bone health. And the title of this is Bone Health and Eyeballs Need Mobility, Balance, and Strength. And you might be thinking, bone health, what does that have to do with eyesight? And we will dive into this topic and you will be surprised about all the connections that we can find. And Maria will highlight those things. So Maria is I'm going to make sure I read this right, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner and a personal trainer. And so you've been doing this work, Maria. First of all, welcome to the show. Let me do this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Claudia. I'm super excited to be here and talk about bones with the ladies and whoever else is listening.
So you and I, we met in Dr. Rita Marie Loscalzo's nutritional endocrinology practitioner training, which I have not completed yet. And we had this synergy right from the get-go. But tell us a little bit about how did you get into this whole work? And I know you added nutrition now and your background is more fitness, but tell us a little bit about how did you get started and why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah, actually, I am doing what I'm doing. There's a few motivations behind it. One is my mother, who unfortunately passed away in October 2021. I'm 47 now, and I was about 36, and there was discussions about single, no kids, whatever. And I really thought, and says, look, the right person is going to show up, and if it doesn't show up, so be it. What I have to do is to be well with myself. And in that discovery, that thought process, I said, what do I need to age well and to actually be happy? And I had gone through a depression in my life previously. And I says, I don't want to ever go back there as much as I can prevent that. And let's assume the worst case scenario that I'm in my 60s, 70s, 80s. I'm alone. I'm originally from Brazil, but I live in Atlanta, Georgia for the last 25 years. And let's assume no family, no nothing, no kids, no companionship, right? I used to be in corporate finance, so we always think about A, B, C, D, and all those kind of options. And I said, well, what do I need to be happy then and content? Actually, the word that I use is content more than happy. I said, well, I need to be healthy on my own. And so, then I started diving and said, well, it's not healthy. It's actually a healthy lifestyle. And then I went through research and says, what is with me? At the time I was a sugar addict. I had gone through a lot of, I was still in episodes of eating disorder, chronic, digestive issues, a lot of stuff going on. And I'm like, okay, it's time to get real. And then I look at my family history, right? And then I just think about my mom. At the time, I started seeing my mom's having problems in my teens, for arthritis, and then went to ulcers in the stomach, and then went through, a lot of osteoporosis, arthrosis. You name it, all kinds of inflammatory issues my mom had. And from being from a distance, it's kind of hard, to guide somebody like that, who is your mother and is strong, and doesn't want to accept help in a way. And we know a lot of people like that, right? So, I says, I'm going to do whatever I can to prevent being in that state, right? So that's what got me into really dive into health and wellness. And personal training was the first thing I decided to do, because I remember seeing a picture. I went to lunch with a lady, a coworker at the time. I was still in corporate. And I talked to her, I need to figure this out because I don't think finance is going to be the rest of my life, because there's some incidents that happen and I'm like, okay, this is not it. I was, I had an executive MBA. I'm very well educated. I was working with CEOs, CFOs. And then I told her about wellness and fitness and all this stuff and a few other options. She sent me this article of this man in his 70s teaching elderly seniors on, exercise. And when I read that article, I could picture, and I says, oh my God, this is one way to transform people. And then that's where I got engaged. Then soon after I went to, got to learn about Dr. Marie and about insulin resistance. And I had already kind of regulated my prediabetes, but I got into hormones and I got into nutrition. I got into all plethora of lifestyles. And then fast forward, I ended up quitting corporate, and I've been having my own business and leading people to a healthier lifestyle since 2015. And I'm a board certified functional wellness practitioner now. And so, yeah, my inspiration on this topic is because of my mom, who lack of mobility literally got her into so much depression, so much other imbalances. And I see women who simply go for the walks and they think that's enough. And I'm here to tell you and to show you that it's not enough. It's good that you're not a couch potato, but we need to strengthen the bones, and for many reasons that we're going to talk today.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I just want to chime in. My mom, very similar. And I loved how you touched on mobility, because she fell like 2020, right? And then she already had hip replacement surgery. And now she fell again December. And I just heard yesterday she fell again. And she can barely walk now anymore. And I can see her, like I didn't see her for 2 years due to COVID. And I saw her for Christmas. And I was shocked about the decline. My mom was always like strong German, like the Brazilians, healthy, always exercising, always moving. Not necessarily eating a great diet, also diabetes and high blood pressure, but taking medication. But overall, for an 86-year-old, I would say, yeah. So tell us a little bit. You mentioned about, walking is not enough. And also let's talk a little bit about the connection between eyesight and bones. And I was on the osteoporosis summit recently, and I talked about how our depth perception, right? When we don't see well 3D, we don't know if there's a shadow or step. So in a way, yes, the falls and falls is a big problem as you get older, right? So tell us a little bit about how you see that connection to vision, and also why is walking not good enough or not enough?
Yeah, if that's okay, I think that, part of being a coach and a trainer is to educate people. And I want the people in this who is watching over here to have an understanding what the function of the bones is too. Is that okay if I share some information about that? And then we're going to dive, because I think before we get into that, we got to understand, we got to love this. Right now, I want you, if you're watching this, I want you to grab your bones right here. I want you to grab it. I want you to feel it. And I said, give some kisses too, because this is instrumental. Okay. We take for granted the power of our bones. So I think that I'm going to share my screen, because sometimes, a picture as we speak is always good. So let me do that. And let me share this. Okay. Give me a second over here. Share screen.
Yeah. It's great to have some visuals. Thank you for backtracking and giving us a little bit of education on bone health. You should be able to share your screen.
Yeah. I'm just putting on I have two screens, so I'm just going to move over here. The looks, where is that showing? So show screen. Okay. Right here. And we are going to do that. And, can you see the screen, the title?
Yes, wonderful.
Okay, beautiful. So that's what we're all about, right? And obviously the information, I have to give a medical disclaimer, because, information over here is not to replace your one-on-one relationship with your doctor. Is really informative. It's for you to give you like, okay, you know what? There is more to this. You're always going to make decisions with your healthcare practitioner, and do your research as well. Don't trust everybody, that you hear stuff. You are unique. So you got to take that in consideration as well. Okay. So we're all here in this talking because we want to age beautifully, right? We want to be independent. That's my drive. That's one of my big whys. So right now, I want you to think, and feel free to put this in the chat. What is your big why? What makes you to be in this conversation today? And when you think about your 60s and 70s and 80s, like I did, over 10 years ago, how do you want to feel? How do you want to be? Sometimes we're just so preoccupied of thinking of now, and we forget about, the now is going to reflect on the later. So yes, we got to focus on the now, but what we do and the choices that we make today are indispensable for the later. So feel free to put in the chat, how do you want to feel? What is independence for you? And to me is to be out of medication as much as possible, to be able to walk, to do the things that I love. So I have the mobility, because once the mobility is out, we're gone, and this is just a meter kind of thing that I like to talk about, just to highlight, and it says, Sometimes symptoms, the lack of symptoms does not mean that we're healthy, right? It just means that, okay, I don't feel any pains and aches, but the question is why I don't feel any pains and aches. Do I have, am I suppressing them with stimulants, with caffeine, with painkillers, whatever that is? Or, no symptoms, but I have zest for life, or I wake up is like a mediocre type of life. No zest for life is also not a good thing. Right. So my job as a coach and trainer is to get people from the right side of this, which is low energy, fatigue, painkillers, diagnosis of diseases, could be osteoporosis as well, or any other chronic inflammatory, to the no symptom, eventually to get into cell protection. I don't believe everybody is on 100% cell function. Okay. I simply don't. But is that a goal? Yes. Okay. So these are a couple of things just to keep in mind as a coach is, coaching the function up and kind of coaching what is called a metabolic chaos down. And that is like imbalances, weak links that we have in the body, and if we go on life masking the symptoms that we have, or thinking that everything is okay, because we decide that, later, I will take care of this. Years after years going into that route can create then several problems that it can become really hard to get to the root cause of the issue. So my job as a coach is to get to the root cause, or as close as possible to the root cause, right? And I know, Claudia, you do a very similar work as well. So that's why we also get along on this. We might have different structures of getting there and processes and systems, but our job is that. And so let's talk about this bone thing. Bone is literally a living tissue. Science has finally understood that, okay, it's not something that is there and is hard and is not alive. No freaking way. Okay. This is, the function of it, first of all, is protect our organs. Just think about it. How many organs are underneath, and around it that supports, that will just touch yourself, just in the abs kind of section, of your body. And it says, goodness gracious. And then what does it do? Also it stores minerals and stores fats that we need for good health, for us to have that independence, for us to have the clarity in life. And it's also, a blood cell formation, that's what it does, some of the key functions of it. So it is live, it is alive. Now, what it also does is there is a thing called bone remodeling process, and you probably have heard about it. So there is two things that happens. One is osteoblasts, and that is a bone forming cell. And then we have osteoclast, those words kind of clast and blast, blast is out, right? So remember that. So it's forming. And then osteoclast is where there is a breakdown of the bone matrix and the remodeling. And there is a release of calcium in that process as well. So what do we want over here? Right? We want to have more osteoblasts and osteoclasts. So it's important for us to understand what causes this osteoclasts more than the osteoblasts. Okay. And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to put on the chat. I might be answering throughout the way, but we can get to it. All right. So I also want to touch about, as you kind of get more curious about, okay, let me dive into this bone health thing. What is behind it? So we now understand about osteoclast, osteoblast, but then there is a thing that we barely hear on the news that is called osteocalcin. Okay. Osteocalcin is actually released by the osteoblasts during the bone formation. Okay. Bone formation, more we have, more of this osteocalcin we have. Now, what it does is science has discovered that is actually not so much as important on the mineralization and bone density, but it actually has a hormone, perspective on it. And that is related to several aspects of bone and endocrine function in the body. So we have over here, the GLP secretion, which is basically intestinal peptides. We have insulin production in the beta cells. Look, beta cells make up 50 to 70% of our cells in the human inlets. So it's extremely important. This is all coming from osteocalcin, folks. Okay, osteocalcin is also related to testosterone production, which we know that is not only for bones, but it's also for healthy aging, right? For muscle, for libido, and so much more. And then is also, involved in the endocrine process of adiponectin secretion. Okay, all those things are related to, adiponectin is related to the fat, process in the body too. So, and then insulin sensitivity, which we know that, higher insulin sensitivity, better regulation of blood sugar, and insulin is involved in every single cell in the body. And insulin is also, when, there is too much going on in the body, is a fat storage hormone, among several other things. So this comes from having those osteoblasts, something that we don't hear too much on the news about it. So I put some links that you can do some research and read more about it. But I just want you to take these bones over here and love it, because there is so much more than it, to it. Okay. So what else we got? So, the fight or flight process that we have, we're talking about the stress, it may be in our bones as well. Okay. So what do I mean with that? This osteocalcin, in acute related response, which is basically stress, right? Acute stress response is when we have this, acute stress that could be caused by multiple things. First, we saw a tiger on the street, which we don't see much of it, but you're driving, for example, and all of a sudden somebody cuts you off and you feel that acute stress response. And that is going to do what? That's going to release the osteocalcin in the bodies too. This stimulates that, and is that good? Yes, it is good up to a level, right? Now ask yourself, how much stress am I having in my life? And stress, is that only the stress of being busy and being cut, on this, by when I'm driving, or maybe something happened to a family member that I'm stressed out, or maybe it's a financial stress? Is there more stressors in our life that are causing this, acute stress response? The answer is yes. Okay. Stress response could be coming from food sensitivity. A stress response could be coming from antigens getting to your blood system. Okay. A stress response could be coming from that water that is polluted. Could be also coming, okay, from lack of movement, which we're going to talk. Right. So all those things can impact this osteocalcin, okay, formation. And glutamate is a kind of an uptake, and I'll talk more about that later, but is it basically there is an uptake into osteoblasts. So we need glutamate, okay, because the osteoblasts, right, formation of the bones, osteocalcin, endocrine system. Just remember those things, okay, if nothing else from this segment over here, because I know this is a little bit more technical, So there is more to the bone and stress, okay? That's what I want you to know. And also the osteocalcin, when it's out of whack, when there is too much caused by acute stress response, inhibits the parasympathetic tone, in the body. What does that mean? The parasympathetic system is when we kind of relax. And when we are in the sympathetic, which is the, flight and fight aspect of our lives, our cortisol is up. And then there is a lot of issues related to cortisol being, up constantly, which we're going to talk about it. So there is a balance over here that we have to maintain, okay? And the parasympathetic system is where there is a lot of healing happening in the body. We cannot heal the body when we're in a sympathetic state. I also want you to write this down, okay? Sympathetic equals no healing. Sympathetic state, that's where the healing happens in the body, okay? So far, so good, Claudia, all good?
Yes. And even if it goes over your head, don't worry, you can watch the replay. And also we have a Q&A at the end, or we can even ask in the meantime. So I know I appreciate your geeky background information, because even though not everybody might understand this is really, really helpful for those who do. And if you don't, then we will have the key takeaways. So thank you so much. I love the science.
Yeah, I think like this, like even when we learn anything, right? We start is imagine when you go to learn a new language, they give you a whole sentence and you start freaking out. So, oh my God, I gotta remember the whole sentences. No, it's the most you hear about it and you practice, eventually you're gonna build those synapses in the brain, right? And you're gonna remember. So here today, for some of you, I might be planting the seed of the knowledge. Okay, for others, this is gonna, oh yeah, I heard about that before. So make a few notes, go back to you, do the research. But my job today is to kind of ignite, the love for your bones and what it is going to do, what you can do to kind of, have more of this osteoblast than the osteoclast. Okay. So, what is this, another silent killer? We hear so many freaking silent killers, killer diseases, right? This is silent, this is silent, this is silent. Well, I truly believe that, the bones are, osteoporosis and is one of the silent killers. Okay. The statistics is something that I don't want you to be. Okay. Just like my mom was. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want you to be part of that. Nobody, especially, women who have a predisposition of osteoporosis and the risk greater than men, but men have as well. So if there's men listening to this, you got to watch out, my friend, because, you're not invincible here. But I'm going to speak especially for the women, because I think most of the folks today the audience is women. So we're starting around age 35 is when women can lose up to 1% of bone mass every year. Okay. You do not want to be that person. You don't want to be that person. Okay. The weakening of the bones, is going to impact your balance as well. All right. Is going to increase the risk of you falling. And hear me out on this. Okay. 90% of the hip fractures, they result on falling. Okay. What happens is a person loses the balance, right? And then fall and might break a bone and says, oh my God, I had no idea. Why did I break the bone? You kind of never thinking about the bones, right? Never thinking about the muscles protecting the bones. Is there something here that we got to think? I mean, the muscles, they have multiple reasons to be in our body, right? And I want you to be aware, we need to build the muscles at least as that kind of layer of protection, in many cases. Other times the bones are really, exposed. So what can we do to those bones that are really exposed, to not fall, first of all? And if we fall, they're not going to break. Because 70% of the people who fall, and fracture a hip, they're unaware of having osteoporosis. That's a fact. Okay. And here's the thing, about 25% of the people, die within a year after having a hip fracture. There is a lot of consequences, and conditions and problems that can happen after a hip fracture. Yes, science has come long ways over here as far as recovery, but it's still, the risk is too much. It's too much. We do not want any of that. Okay. Right? I want you to write down, I don't want to be part of these statistics. So this is an action that we are here for, to learn a little bit more about it, and do the work. So, what about osteoporosis, right? In reality, what is it? It's a medical condition in which the bones become brittle and fragile, from loss of tissue. And typically as a result of hormonal changes or deficiencies in vitamins and minerals. Okay, that is in a nutshell. And the pictures tells 1,000 words of here on the right side, right? You see a bone. You see where they're all close together over there? That's going to be a lot harder than to break than the bottom one, right? With osteoporosis that you see that is fragile. Now, we hear a lot about it. What can cause osteoporosis? Most people think, oh, I got to keep up my calcium. Well, yes, it is important. But you know what? Before the calcium, we got to have some vitamin D, because the vitamin D is regulating the calcium. And too much calcium actually can create problems in the body. So first of all, I want you to think about here, osteoporosis is linked, to increased inflammation. And we're going to talk about, a little bit more testing and things like that you can do. Okay, chronic inflammation. Are you having some low-grade inflammation in the body that you don't know about it? Have you done any testing? Are you aware of it? Sedentary lifestyle, which we're going to touch more about it, right? How many people are not putting the pressure on it? Okay, bones need pressure, pressure to grow because it's a living tissue. Remember that, and loves the pressure. Okay. Digestive disorders, well, if you're not absorbing foods, what's going on, right? Or the minerals and vitamins. Well, there's going to be a repercussion on those bone formations, right? There's potentially a more osteoclast breakdown of the bones faster than the blasts. And unfortunately, with age, there is more of the clast versus the blast. Can we do something to slow it down? Absolutely, we can. Right? Like I mentioned, nutrient deficiencies, D and K, calcium, but the D, it's important. We all know about it. Or if you don't know, let me tell you, it is. Okay.
What's interesting, Maria, my mom, fell several times and the doctor said you should have knee surgery. I'm like, what is your vitamin D level? No, nobody tests the vitamin D levels. And living in winter in Germany, it's probably pretty low, but this is one of those things where vitamin D is so underrated. But keep going. This is so
let me tell you, it's really hard actually. I put vitamin K and D, right? Because they're cofactors over there. And vitamin K is made in the gut and also in plants. Right. But gut bacteria make vitamin K, which is also important to have good digestive system. Right. Mm-hmm. So, but most of my clients, well, I'm going to say maybe 50-50, depending on the age of the client. The doctors are not running basic testing, including vitamin K, vitamin D. And I said, no, I don't care what age you are. You got to know where your baseline on that, plus several other blood markers, but here is specifically, we want to know your magnesium, your potassium, you don't know your calcium, you don't know those things. And that is at 35 and at 30 and at 25, at 35, at 45, 55, 78. I don't care what the age it is. We need to know, So then obviously lower levels of estrogen and testosterone, well, that comes with age, but also comes with the regulation of our hormones, which we'll talk a little bit more about it. Is smoking. Well, smoking, folks, if you're listening to this, you're smoking. I just want you to know this. Every time you breathe that, you are killing your DNA of your cells. You're increasing oxidative stress, which is killing your cells. I want you to love yourself. I want you, in order for you to be loved by others, we first got to love ourselves and have compassion. So enter into a program, do whatever it takes, get away from smoking. You are killing yourself every single breath on that. Okay. I'm very passionate. My mom was a smoker until she had an aneurysm in 2009, and then she let it go. But a lot of her health problems came from partially malnutrition at a young age, and because she grew up poor, and ate whatever was available, and obviously smoking since she was 13. All right. And if you're not smoking, you have access to secondary smoke, right? That is a problem too. But anyway, this is an issue. Excess alcohol and sugar, they're all, create inflammation, this regulation of hormones, chronic kidney and liver diseases, which comes normally from, poor nutrition, and so many other issues. And a lot of folks, with hyperthyroidism, and you're going to see in research, that this is highly correlated because the thyroid is really, regulates the metabolism in the body and so on. And then there's medications that people don't really think about it. They're like, okay, you're in PPIs and you're taking this every day. And it says, okay, let's address the PPI problem, because that is demolishing your bones as well. So let's get to the root cause. Let's stop masking the problems, and putting Band-Aids and really saying, what can I do to stop this over the counter or this drug? We're not in the business, either one of us over here, on medicating and treating you, right? We're here to educate and give you the tools and encourage you to do some functional labs and things like that to understand more about your body, and nobody more than you know your body. But masking and putting Band-Aids is not a solution. It's not a solution. Is that maybe a relief, temporary relief, but it's our responsibility to do something else to get to the bottom of it. Make sense so far?
So totally. And it's interesting. A lot of the things listed on this slide is also what causes cataracts. So I feel like there's a lot of overlap. Yes, this is awesome. Keep going.
Yeah. So, after all this, right? I mean, Are we ready over here to fight for our bones? Come on now. You got to put in the chat if you're down, if you're listening to this. Are you ready to fight for the bones? You got to appreciate this. You hit it, it pains. Oh, yeah. Oh, my lovely bone. And we don't know what's going on inside, a lot of times, right? We feel it's strong over here. But what is the quality of this bone inside? And do I know really the density is hard to me, but what's going on, right? So first of all, we got to start over here. Obviously, part of this, the title of this today is about mobility, is about flexibility, is about balance, it's about bone health and the eyesight. So there is no reason why we cannot start doing today what I call intentional movement. Intentional, why? Because in the beginning you said, I asked you, says, why are you in this call? How do you want to age? Right? So let me tell you, folks, everything that you do, okay, from thoughts to your actions, from going through grocery shopping to getting up from the couch, from a chair to sitting down, to actually getting to the cabinet, anything like that, reaching out to the side, grabbing this bottle of water that I am over here, and even have the back, the neck mobility to go side to side over here and stretch out. This is movement. Okay. This is movement. Now imagine if you couldn't move. Okay. Or if you're so freaking afraid of moving because you're afraid you're going to break something, right? Or you're going to fall because you don't have the balance. So exercise, whatever word you want to use, movement, exercise, physical activity is the same thing. It's movement. So put the word that speaks to you better. But to me, is intention. Why am I moving? Because let me tell you, a simple thing that we can do is to learn how to do a proper squat without having to use our hands. Because, the squat, we have to squat to get something from the floor. We want to sit down. We want to be able to get up. Imagine, like I did when I was 36, and I saw, reminded me actually, part of what I didn't tell you is when I was going through a lot of reflection at the time, there was this commercial of that older lady, like that falls in the kitchen floor. I don't know if you had that in Germany too. And then the woman is alone in the house and she couldn't get up, and I'm thinking at the time, I remember, all those images came. I said, how about I'm alone over here, no kids around, no family around. I says, who is calling these days? Personally, I don't have a ton of people calling. They were back then, 11 years ago, they're already texting more than calling, right? And there was the email. And I was like, okay, the UPS guy would, or FedEx would sometimes, call, plug in and call so you can have to put a signature down. Today, they don't. They just leave the package and move on, right? So people are texting. They're not calling. Who is knocking at your door all the time to see how you're doing? Maybe you live in a neighborhood, but if you have away from the family, maybe not. So what happens if you fall, right? So you got to be able to get up. You got to have the strength and the balance and the flexibility to put your legs in a position that you're going to use the right muscles to get off the floor. Or imagine if it's a kitchen, that's fine. You normally have walls, cabinets, whatever. But imagine if you fall this on the street, right? Because you lost your balance. You're maybe looking at the phone or someplace and you trip, got your ankle down, I don't know. And then you break maybe a leg and, oh boy, I don't have anything to grab over here, but I have to get up. So one task for you today is I want you to be on the floor after this call, okay, where there's nothing around. And I want you to test, can I get up without grabbing on anything? And that should be a sign. And I'm not speaking this to bring fear to you. It's awareness, because we don't think about those things. And sometimes we think that's not going to happen to me. And it says, oh, well, let's not go there, right? Too many things have happened, especially in the last couple of years, that says it can happen to anybody. So intention, how we move, intention, because everything you do from an exercise perspective is functional. Now, if you do a bicep curl, well, that's not functional. Okay, I'm talking about functional exercise, that all the movements are going to help you for functionality every day. And that's what functional wellness is looking into the function from your brain to getting to your body, right? There's a lot of communication. The body will do what function. So we want to be at ease, before we have any and don't have symptoms. So all those things are correlated. So, right now it says, okay, ask the questions. Am I exercising? Am I putting pressure to these bones? Right? We have to do that. If nothing else, if all possible, I would like you to start jumping. Okay, just simply jumping up and down 2 minutes a day has been researched, and science said that already has an impact on bone. 2 minutes of jumping up and down doesn't have to be fancy. Just start doing that. Okay, then we have to have remember I mentioned about protection of the bones, right? And muscles will protect in many other, aspects of our life, including insulin sensitivity is going to improve, is going to help with, plethora of other things. So we need to add some resistance. And you know what? Do you have to go to a gym for that? No, your body weight is resistance. So when we talk about, body weight movements, body weight exercises, hey, we're standing, maybe you are 130 pounds, like I am. Maybe you are 150 pounds, maybe you're 100 pounds. Well, that's weight, right? So there's all movements, there's plenty of movements that you can use your own body weight as resistance. And as you get stronger, then it becomes easier. Now you can hit some dumbbells or bands and things like that. I love the bands, okay? They're easy to carry, inexpensive, and can do a lot of good destruction, meaning destruction as osteoblasts, okay? And then, it's important that we move in different directions, if, that's one of the things, addressing the question over here of walking. Okay, so walking, are we putting any pressure? Yes, some. Walking, first of all, I want to say that's the basic. The body is built, okay, to walk. That's it. That's the basic function. Right now, and that's fine. We can walk very slow. We can walk, a brisk walk. We can have maybe some backpack with some weights. Now we're adding resistance to that walk. We can go uphill, downhill, all this, right? So is that important to walk? Absolutely. It's good cardiovascular. Now, is that the only thing, is that the most important thing for bone health? No, we need greater impact than that. So I want you to kind of think about, other things that you can do. And first, second of all, I want you to think, what is walking? You put one leg in front of the other. That's just one direction, right? One direction. Same thing as runners, joggers, whatever, or elliptical. It's one direction. Life is not about one direction. Okay. Our body function is not about one direction. We got to be able, just think about getting off the car. Okay. So let's say you're driving over here and now you open the door, and what are you going to do? To see your flexibility, do you have to put both legs, you got to turn your body and do this? Or do you have the flexibility and mobility to actually get one leg? Let's say I'm going to get up to the left side, put my left leg and lift and actually put on the ground while the right stays on the car and then get up. Well, some people cannot do that already. What is that movement actually? That's actually a type of lunge. Okay. Because lunge is not only forward and reverse, there's sideways, multiple ways. So, and do I have the strength to actually, when I put that left leg on the ground, on the pavement, let's say that, to actually lift without, having to hold everywhere, on the car. So these are things that we don't think. This is functionality of the body. And when we start losing that, our motivation for life starts losing. It starts going down as well. Okay. So make sure that you are doing multiple things. You're using your body in multiple ways, and you're also using the right muscles. Right. Because sometimes I just see people doing I love the squat. An example, because people are lifting they're getting off the ground or the chair using more of their knees versus the hamstring muscles. And then they complain because, again, a lot of times people don't know, right? The form, the technique of their squat is just inappropriate. They've never been trained. They never thought much about it. And as they are getting older, the body's conditioned to get up that way, that one way, and that's the only way you know how to get up. And then we start having knee problems. Oh, I cannot do a squat properly because my knee hurts. And says, well, maybe it's the technique that needs some adjustments. And it's never, ever, ever too late to improve the technique. Okay, never, ever. And that's part of my job as well, helping individuals on that, to build the technique. And so they can use the right muscles, to do using the knees to get up, more than your hamstrings. Look at the muscle. I mean, the hamstrings are thick, strong muscles versus the knees, which are a bunch of bones in there, very little muscles. So you see the problem over there? Just imagining. So yes, it's important to have the squat form, and obviously, the balance, every single client who comes to me has balance issues. Okay. We need to challenge that. Can we step, on something and actually, stay out of balance? Can we just stand in one foot, and if we can we close our eyes? That's the second level. Right. And then can we stand on a surface that is narrow and allow ourselves to stay there without fear? Right. Because that balance, it can happen any day. It's the same example I gave earlier about you walking and potentially, walking funny on an edge. And okay, do I have the strength and the core strength over here to maintain my stability, so I'm not going to fall? And if we don't exercise, if we're just walking, we're not actually strengthening the muscles that help to build the stability in the body. So if something happens, an unstable environment happens, we might fall a lot quicker than if you are actually moving in different directions and strengthening the muscles, including the core. Does this make sense, Claudia?
Yes, absolutely. We actually had a quick question in there, like balance boards. Would they help with balance?
Say again. Let me look into
boards. Those balance boards that you can get. There's
oh yes.
Yeah, that's one. That's one way to that's how I would think. It's like one way to improve your balance.
You do. But another thing is, even if you a safe way to do, there is actually foam rollers. There are half foam rollers. And you know what a foam roller is? You can also, if you have the second over here, go into Amazon and do half foam roller. So it's basically a foam roller is going to be a roller like, diameter normally is a few inches, 10 inches or something like that. And the half one, you can put that on the floor, right? And it's going to be half, so you can actually walk on it. It's one of the ways that I get people to practice in a safe way, because you can put that close to the wall or something like that. And then you feel like, okay, I can put one foot in front of the other. But if you're relearning to get your balance, then if you have to put your hand somewhere, you can quickly do that. That is inexpensive way. But also, depending on what you have at home, you can put things, bricks or something like that on the floor, right? On the ground, and you can try to walk on it. But it has to be unstable enough. That's why I like the half foam roller, because your foot is not planted. You have, there's going to be a imbalance there. And that is it. When you start paying attention, really, I want you to think about it, because the balance is really you igniting your brain over here and talking to your body, right? And you're going to see what muscle is forcing me to actually do this. What is the posture that is best for me to maintain my balance? And is a good, strong posture, right? You have the kinetic chain, 5 kinetic chains in the body while you're straight. Some folks are already not straight in their 50s and 60s. They're walking already with a curved back. So that balance is going to be challenged. Is that reversible with a lot of work? Yes, depending on your age, depending on the circumstances, practice will get us there. So it's never too late. But I just want you to be aware that that balance is going to be challenged by we being able to actually stand strong and tall, right? Because the moment that we're curved forward, we're not balanced anymore. And that also means that we're not using our core muscles that actually bring the stability, from the lower body to the upper body, right? Make sense?
Totally. And I mean, vision is a big piece.
That's it.
If you've ever done yoga poses on one leg and you close your eyes, like you said earlier, right? Like you can see how it's really all connected. So I love this. We're getting great feedback here in the chat that people are really enjoying this. So
yeah, that's great.
Maybe you can even show some things after the slideshow that you can show us a few things, and then we will definitely look at questions too. So keep awesome.
Yeah. So, and here is what I want you to give the bonus of exercise, right? Remember the technical little names that we mentioned earlier about increases osteocalcin, glutamate, and and exercise capacity. That's all comes from exercise. Exercise helps all those mechanisms in the body, in addition to all the other things that we know it does. Right.
I know what you said earlier, that movement, like reaching something from the cupboard, getting out of the car, like, because exercise, sometimes what I hear is like, oh, I don't have time for exercise. And I think what you said, just jumping for 2 minutes, or I think the key is that exercise is a piece of movement, right? Movement is a lot more than exercise. Exercise is usually what we do, like what you listed, yoga, fitness, dancing, hiking, but also any kind of movement you do during the day. Are you standing at your desk? Are you sitting at your desk? Like, all these kind of things, right? Wouldn't you agree with that? Movement is a lot more than just the stuff we do, what we call technically exercise.
Yes. So here is how I see it. Movement, it's yes, doing, look, this is movement, right? Move my hands.
Right.
This is movement. Now, you see, my mom, for the last several years of her life, she had problems, holding something of a pound or a kilogram in her hand for more than a few seconds. Okay. We don't think about those things, right? She was so weak, right? And then I started doing online with her, trying different things with her legs and her arms. And I remember once, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, I was like, okay, Mom, let's do these movements, just getting your arms up and then your legs up, like extensions from the chair. And just her getting the arms up over here, for like 30 seconds was getting tired. But I said, and she said, I remember her with a smile, I said, oh my God, I feel alive. I mean, with the movement, I feel alive. Now, here we go. Here it is. Okay. I feel alive with a movement. Now, if you're stronger, now, did she feel alive when she actually grabbed the damn pound, or glass of water and couldn't stay up for long and feeling defeated? Is that a sign of livelihood? No, it's not. It's a sign of weakness, right? So what can I do over here that will help me to keep holding this bottle of water for, maybe 5 minutes, versus 30 seconds? That's the strength. Okay. And it's not only so, you see, I mean, if you can see me on the camera over here, I can be holding this like this, for my shoulder down, you see over here, like shoulder forward and forward like that. And, that's one way of holding. Is that the way I would recommend? No, that's not the way I recommend, because I'm using mostly of my shoulder muscles over here. How about if I put my posture back over here, okay, my shoulders back, and I hold? Now I'm using my lats, which are much stronger muscles. So there is ways of doing it. So movement, yes, is a fountain of life. Okay. Now, how to do that movement that is going to actually give more zest, to life? We need the strength. Okay. And we're not going to move as much if we feel afraid that we're going to fall. Okay. Yep. Period.
Yep. Period. With my mom right now, she doesn't even want to go for walks, and she used to walk a couple of miles every day. Now she doesn't want to go on walks anymore. So yeah, I would love for you to show some things after the slideshow so that we can see your full screen.
Yeah. So let me continue going over here, because I want to tell you the story, because this is where I relate, the eyes with mobility and strength and all that. Okay. So first of all, vision, that word, you are eyesight coach, right? And a health coach. Now, you talk a lot about the vision and the quality of the vision and the eyes and prevention of using glasses and all that, right? Now, I link vision to multiple things. Vision for me is like that vision that I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, right?
Oh, I do that too. The life vision. Yeah. I do
the life vision.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what is this? What is this life that I want? What kind of, what kind of history, or what do I want to leave behind me? What kind of mark do I want to leave behind me? It might be that, I want to be the best grandmother or mother or whatever that is. I want to be an inspiration to people in one aspect, or, whatever that is. And if you don't have any, which I doubt, because you're in this this presentation here today, I want you to reflect. If your deathbed, you have a few minutes, you're going to go, says, what do you want to be proud of? That you woke up every day and, went to work and then, maybe chit chatted with your children and you went to bed and you did that every day, or you stayed on the couch watching TV and movies. What is it? Or that you actually were inspired to wake up to get something else that is bigger than you, than your capacity, So those are things to me. And to me, having that vision, when you think about accomplishing that one little thing, it doesn't have to be big, right? That one little thing that you want to be proud that you left behind, to others that you came across, you're going to have to be able to move. Okay. Can you do something incapacitated? If you are paraplegic, yes, you can. You can do a lot. All right. Right. We don't want to discuss that. And we are not talking about that stage. We're talking about having, being able to get up in the morning and do the things to accomplish that vision. And that to me is freedom. My biggest, if I think about, my vision in life, and I think about my goals, and I think that what impacts me the most, freedom is my value number one, and health comes number second. Because if you take my freedom away, that's going to be a problem. And that freedom is freedom for about everything, from a social aspect, from my speech aspect, from a mobility, vision, whatever that is. That freedom is, once you start impact on that, that's going to impact in my personal and psychiatric, I guess, way of feeling. So, I had a situation here that happened a few, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or something like that. I was doing some videos, and this image that you have over here is a box. Box jump. In the case of the delay, this is not my picture. In the last minute, I couldn't find the pictures of me jumping on the box. But I want you to imagine, this box can be 12 inches, 16 inches, 20 inches, 24 inches, whatever that is, right? Now, how high you're going to jump into that box, not step up, depends on your flexibility, depends on your strength. So is that an important thing? Well, think about, how do I use jumping in my life? You might be jumping from down, maybe, you're going to go hiking and you have stones and you're going to get in there. So you have that impact and you're going to be able to stay stable in there. Again, the core movement, right? But this box over here is a very stable place. So I was doing some videos and I wanted to play a little, funny, whatever, or smart. And I said, I'm not going to look at the box. And I had the camera on filming. And I says, I'm going to look just like that lady. But from the beginning, I was going to look straight and not look at the box. What happened? I tripped. I didn't hurt myself or anything, but I tripped. And my heart rate went straight into acute. The stress, the adrenaline went up, right? And the fear came up. And I said, oh my God, I just almost fell over here, right? Because what? I was not seeing where I was going, right? I decided to disconnect my vision to my destination over here. My first step is to stand or to jump on that box, on top of that box. And I disconnected my vision to that. Now, how is that important in our conversation over here? If you have poor vision, right? Are you going to maybe potentially stop doing things that you love? Maybe you cannot see something well, or the vision is off, right? Do I step here? Do I go there? Where is it? So just think about circumstances. I'm sure all of us have gone through that, where you don't know where you're going and you paralyze, or you go into a stress mode, right? And then, in that case over there, as I tripped to get on top of the box, I lost my balance. Did I fall? No, I didn't fall in that case, but I have pretty strong, a core. So I immediately went back and I have a reflection of it. I'm like, whoop, get back onto it. But if I didn't, I likely would have fell. Okay. So just a movement like this, of jumping on a box, involves every kind of thing that we're talking about when it comes to movement. It is about balance, is about mobility, is about flexibility, is about strength. A simple act like that, right? Am I going to ask everybody to jump on that box, Well, maybe you can do it with a 5 inches, box and 10 inches. Is that good for you? It's great, but is that for everybody? Maybe not. Let me tell you how this incident impacted me. Okay. Because the brain over here, I want you to also understand that the brain is a lazy brain. The brain is a safe space. It's going to always carry us to the safe space. Always, 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 always. So I had serious issues to start jumping on the box again. And eventually I did. And I decided I'm going to try this again. And I tripped again. And then, my friend, I says, I am not doing this box jumps anymore. Because every time I look at the box, my heart would start racing. So now goes to say those people who think about it, well, the thoughts, it's a bunch of woo-woo that the thoughts can do or cannot do anything for us. No, I was just thinking of jumping into that box. It brought back to the experience that I tripped. The experience of tripping could see the next things like, oh, how about if I hurt my shin? Because a lot of people doing box jumps, they you see blood sometimes coming down, okay? Because it happens. They're taking risks, right? Higher risk, higher returns, that kind of stuff. So the brain went straight into that. The brain says, no, lady, you ain't doing any box jump anymore. Took me a very long time to go back, and I am not back onto the 20 inches, which I've done thousands of jumps, on boxes of 20 inches and 24 inches, thousands. And what I do now, I step with weight for the most part. Okay. And once in a while I go and jumping and to the 16 inches. So goes to see the importance of our vision, and how a simple test like that can impact my freedom, because it impacted my freedom. That's the way I see it. I had no problems until that, to jump into on the box, no problems whatsoever. So now I kind of remove that from my exercise routine for the most part. That's my freedom. I mean, maybe not a big thing for you, but it is a big thing for me. So you got to understand, what is it for you? What kind of things, you want to keep doing for the rest of your life, right? So any comments there?
I don't see any, but this is, I love this example. It's such a perfect example of how, we talk about the amygdala wants to keep, the fear mode is that like we want to be safe, so that the risk, and then the brain is kind of getting you into this whole story of all the potential things that can happen. And I think this is exactly why people start moving less. There is some kind of memory of something that happened, and then you don't want to do that anymore. So I think this is a great example. And box jumps is definitely something that I always struggled with. And it's a really great exercise.
I know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, but you said 24 inches. I mean, that's 2 feet, that's pretty high.
Yeah, well, there was a time that I got to the max, I think was 29 inches, and, it was just a practice, right? And, going tiny little bits at the time, and it's amazing, right? When the time is like, I didn't go from 24 to 29. I mean, just the thought of that. I remember when I was in that practicing that day specifically, I talked to you, I go back to that day, and it says, no, I cannot do that big, thick thing. It's going to be smaller. So again, the brain is going to say, okay, what is comfortable? What can I do? What can I accomplish? And that's about changing our behaviors and habits. It's a tiny little thing. We want to jump sometimes big. And that's what I tell, my clients from a fitness perspective to their any other habits in life. It's got to be small and steady, but with consistency. So I got to 29 after several little, additions to it. And eventually I got to 29. And after that, I said, nope, that was it. I froze and that was it. And that's okay. That's okay. There's many other things, that I can do, but it's examples of being aware of where we are at, what fears we have, what awareness we have of our body, what, makes us kind of do or do not do things. You know what I'm saying?
I love what you said. We had my chiropractor, Dr. Nunes, was on a few, weeks, like in December, and my mom saw him. I brought my mom to see him, and she's like, I can't go in my knees, I can't squat. That was 2-3 years ago. And he said, no, we did this. Stop saying that. We're going to practice this right now. We're going to work on this and the hip and that. And he's like, you want to have a young body. And
yes,
it's like very much the same example, because it totally limits your life, or you don't do those things, or they make those toilets super high that you don't even have to go into a squat anymore. So all these, I love what you're talking about, that it's so important to not limit. Oh, we're just saying we are old. I saw a video recently the other day, like it was an 80-year-old or 82-year-old woman, and she did a box jump, and she had a fitness trainer. It was pretty high. I would say it was probably like 12 to 16 inches. And the trainer was like, and she was like focusing, like you said, the mental focus, the visual focus, breathing. And then the trainer's like, you can do it. And he was standing there just in case, just kind of help her out. And she did it. And it's like, wow, how good do you feel,
You feel amazing. You feel empowered. And, that's the kind of zest, right, of doing things. I mean, how much empowered do we feel if we're just sitting all day? I mean, nothing. Nothing.
It's a challenge too, what you talked about, having challenge yourself to a little bit every day, just a teeny tiny bit, instead of thinking, oh, I'm this or that age and that's dangerous, or, anyway, this is wonderful.
Yeah. It's a step-by-step process, and so what I also wanted to share here is my experience, because, some folks think that, some people think that, oh, once you lose that, bone health, you are, you cannot get it back, or bone density, it's going to go downhill from there. So obviously I have osteoporosis in my family. And to me, it has always been a thing, right? But especially since I became a coach. And before that, I never thought about it. I'm like, okay, whatever. So I started tracking, my bone density in the last, few years. And I'm in the business of, things like that. You don't guess, okay? You test. Okay, so there's a few tests, and I'm going to talk about this. This is one of them. You might have heard about DEXA scan. So DEXA scan, a lot of some doctors are going to put, I'm going to suggest that to women. You're definitely going to do a DEXA scan if you fall, because they're going to then look into, oh, did we break anything? What is the quality of your bones? What is the density, and so on. Well, I'm suggesting over here, you do not freaking wait. Okay, you do not wait to any of that to happen. First of all, if you ask me when is good testing, I was going to say you're going to test, when you're 25 years old, because that's the peak of bone density. And then it starts going downhill at 35 potentially, right? Like I mentioned earlier. So you want to test the young folks. So 25, they're not thinking about that. So you're listening to here, to us today. So I want you to say, go and inspire, and says, you know what? You're young. Let's check it, because you know what? Your history from your mother's womb, how you are born, if it was C-section or normal, that's going to be impact on your digestive system, your ability to absorb foods and nutrients, minerals, and so on. And that's going to have an ability, an impact on your bone formation. Plus whatever else, your nutrition has been as a child. So at 25, you want to know, because that's the peak generally, right? You want to know where you're at. Now, 5 years later, you want to know where's that? Is that going up? Is that going down? Where is it? 35, you want to know. And then from there, you start tracking, maybe every 2 or 3 years or something like that. So here you can see over here, because this is an interesting story. So you see, I circle over here on the top, the dates of January 1st and June 1st. And you notice over here, notice that my weight, which says, body total mass over here, right? You can see the date from the left to right, right? The date that I measure the total body fat, the total body weight with a clothes that I had. So you can tell the last three, they're very similar. Basically, there's no change on weight. Right? Now, what happened over here between January and June? My fat went up. Look at that. And look at my lean tissue mass went down quite a bit. And so what happened? Let me tell you what happened. Okay. I had an injury in November of 2020 on my elbow over here that really, I have to always be careful on my shoulder. So I do everything to strengthen the shoulder muscles so I can continue to be good, and I had played a volleyball match, which I used to play quite a lot, and I kind of stopped and then aggravated tremendously after being, in remission and being good with my shoulder. And that went down here when I started having pain again from one match. Okay. And then one day I wake up in my elbow. So there's a lot of, if you look into the muscles and bones and how they all connected, these are all connected. And that put me into a funk. Okay. And the funk came is like, I got so discouraged. What did I do? I basically stopped exercising. I was going, for runs here and there, once or twice. I'm not going to lie. I got into such a funk, and it was winter, for the most part, and got cold. And you can see I didn't change much of my weight, but what happened? Fat went up, lean mass went down. Now, there is another thing that happened in there. So if my weight, is that all exercise? I don't believe so, because I also decided that I was going to be a vegan, and nothing against veganism. Okay. But in February of that year, I decided to go into a vegan diet just to see how I feel, and all that, because I grew up in Brazil eating meat. I enjoy meat. It's about the quality of animal protein, but not to get into details. I decided no more. And let's see. So I kind of adjusted my body, but my issue is I knew exactly what I was doing, okay, in that respect, or not doing. I was not controlling for the protein intake coming from the plants, and I was not doing amino acids, I was not doing anything. That is what happened, okay? Weight stabilized, fine, didn't increase any weight, but stop exercising and went into a vegan, not putting the proper amount of protein. Lean mass went down and fat went up. Is that what I want? Absolutely not. And this was so quick. Okay, that happened. So the plug that I'm telling you over here is, if you're changing a diet, you got to make sure that you are getting the proper nutrients to your body. Okay, proper nutrients. So don't go into any freaking diet not putting the proper amount of protein in your body. You can go vegan, but it's going to be some work. Okay, it's going to be some work for you to make sure that vegan is healthy, is anti-inflammatory vegan, and that you're adding enough animal protein from the plants. Okay, that's in amino acid, branched chain amino acids. Actually, I like essential amino acids that go straight to the bones. Okay, to be utilized.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to see. Like, if you would have just not exercised, and didn't change your diet, it would be interesting to see the difference. But
but here is what happened. So obviously I went down in both, and then I went up on both, right? So what happened here? So when I discovered that, this day over here, by the way, the June 15 is when I did the DEXA scan, right? That was the last day that I said, okay, enough of this diet. And I have my own gym. I enroll into a gym, and I normally do, functional exercises, which is CrossFit. And yes, CrossFit, there's multiple levels of it, but to me, it works. It is what speaks to me and is amazing. So I said, enough of this, back to protein, and back to exercising 4 times a week to 5 times a week. And how quickly, look at that, I got my numbers up. Look at how quickly, that's what happens over here. Okay. So I went from June to October, right? Less than 4 months, I got my lean tissue higher than it was before. Okay. And my fat lower. Look at this, what happens. Okay. This is by putting, and I would like to attribute that exercise over here was the biggest component. Okay. But to be honest, I don't know. There is no way to build that much muscle without having the right amount of protein. And the protein is from plants, is from control amount of animal protein that I did, and essential amino acids. Okay, which is the breakdown of protein. All right. So it's all kind of, if a person is trying to build muscle, which was the case for me over here, and, lower the fat, there's going to be some control on timing and things like that. But the macronutrients are important, okay? So this is what also happened to my bone density. So the test that I show you is a DEXAs with body composition. There's DEXAs that doctors run. They don't have the body composition component, but you can find clinics that have body composition with the DEXA. And that's what I did. So this is what happened to my bone density when I went to that vegan, okay? And no exercise. Look at how quickly it went down. You see? And this is how quickly it went up. So it is possible. It is possible through lifestyle to get that bone back. Okay, that bone density back. To me, it's I was my own guinea pig unintentionally, and it was a beautiful thing. Right? It to me is inspiring to know the power that nutrition and movement, intentional movement has, because I was intentionally moving to build my muscle, right? I'm back into it. It's strength training. That's what it is. It was not running, folks. It was not running. It's strength training. And you can get very high cardiovascular, with your strength training too. It just has to be properly designed. That's all. For you, for you is different than the next person because you're unique. So you got to work with somebody who understands that, and you have to know where you stand at. What is your baseline? So that's what I think, you got to test. Don't guess. Isn't that great?
Absolutely. Yes. Very cool. Okay. Yeah.
So here's a couple of things, right? So on the don't test, don't guess and test. So you can do things like that. You can do a DEXA scan. That I just show you a couple things, about on the report. There is a lot more on the report, gives you a whole perspective on the right side, left side, abs, visceral fat. It's a great test. All right. I just show you a couple things here for today. So you can do that. And then you can do another test, which I would recommend, especially for women, 40 and older, or if you have a history of osteoporosis in the family, to do a bone resorption test. And there is, serum levels, and there is urinary, and basically it's going to tell how much bone are you peeing out, right? So that is how much bone are you losing. So this NTX or the CTX will do that. One goes through the serum to the blood, but then, how the biochemistry works is go from the blood to eventually kidneys and get to the urine. So one of this, and talk to your primary care, if he has never done that test, it might be something if you have a history. Like I said, how early do you start testing? I as early as it can be. I would say, if I had that knowledge, 25, 35, to see. And then, every 2 years, 3 years, and depending on the age, you got to track it. The good thing for me is I've been exercising for quite some time, even before being a personal trainer. Movement has been life to me. You take exercise out of my life, I will be in probably antidepressants, to be totally true, to be honest. Exercise is, one of the best ways to get your neurotransmitters up, from GABA to dopamine to serotonin. To me, is brain health. And in science too, not only to me. So there's three angles that I look at exercise is good for. Insulin sensitivity because of muscles, okay? And every other aspect in blood glucose and so on that does to the body, blood flow. Brain health with all the neurotransmitters and BDNF, which is the creation of new brain cells, okay, that it does, and bone health. Those are the three angles. I don't look into exercise for weight loss. Why? Because it's indirect side effect. When you start getting conscious and you actually do it enough that you get the zest, the beauty, and you feel great about it, right? you're going to make better choices, period. You're going to be reflecting better. You're going to get your prefrontal cortex over here to work a little harder and says, you know what? This pizza is probably not the best for me because it's going to impact my, digestive system. Maybe you're aware of that. And that's going to impact my ability to do great tomorrow or even for the rest of the day. So that's how I see exercise. Brain, make better choices. That's how I see it. And then that's where you get to the weight potentially. Okay. So you can do that.
Yeah, really quick. We're already at 75 minutes. So,
okay. We're almost done here.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. So then the other couple of things that I want to mention is about doing functional labs. Okay. Because we think about bone and we can do all those testing, but I want you to understand this, right? Just like you're going to speak about, eyesight, and you notice the relationship between exercise in the body and the eyesight. The body is a machine, okay? And once there is something wrong, something is wrong. So, the stress and cortisol and steroid hormones, you got to be tested. You got to see where you're at. You got to see where your cortisol, which is, if you have a cortisol to DHEA ratio that is high, that means that you're in a catabolic state. You want to understand if your adrenal glands is actually making cortisol. But once you have this cortisol to DHEA, which protects, the body, the DHEA does, then you're destroying something. Okay. And the cortisol, as I mentioned, suppresses, bone formation. Right. So, and if you're already in a menopausal state, well, then your estrogen, your progesterones are down, and those are actually good for bone health. So we got to see how can we improve those levels. So know where you stand. And these are saliva tests. The blood's not going to catch the same way because it doesn't show as bioavailable as saliva test. So you got to know those things, okay, from my perspective. Digestion, detoxification in the body, are absorbing the foods. Do you have bacteria overgrowth that is impacting your digestion? That potentially creating inflammation in your body, right? Including, bile acid. Bile acid is related to bone formation as well. Zonulin, which looks into, leaky gut. And once there is leaky gut, there is, antigens coming through, and that creates inflammation. And you can see a lot of that from a stool test. Calprotectin that you see in a stool test as well is going to do what? It's going to look for basically inflammation on your digestive system. And then we have, blood tests on inflammatory markers like CRP. You want to know that because inflammation, again, is going to create problems for osteoblasts and bone health. So there is, several things that you can measure to understand where you're at. And once you know where you're at, then you can put the proper protocols. And those protocols that I'm talking about, they are not medical protocols. They're protocols of, natural therapies. Look into your nutrition, look into your sleep, look into and reducing your stress hormones, looking into, balancing these hormones, naturally speaking, or supplementation that is going to give a boost. And supplements have a lot to do, especially in the beginning, for trying to restore. So these are important things, that to keep in mind. And if all this is over the top, I can have a conversation with you and we can discuss this, And so these are the things, that I wanted to show you today. And I got a special offer over here, and we're going to go through Q&A, but I just want to put this out there that if you are inspired to get back into, an exercise that makes sense to you, that is going to help your bone, that is going to help your brain health, insulin sensitivity, whatever it is, zest in life. I'm making an offer over here, a discount to get personal training 101 with me. So we go into all this functionality, see where you're at. And yes, can all be done online. I've been working online since 2017 with personal training, in person too, but it has been 100% online for quite a bit, quite a long time. And this will get you, in a good starting place. And then from there, we can continue working together, or you just need it like, what, this is where I'm at. I want to go to the next level, and I can help you with whatever state you are. I can help you to get to the next level, but we got to assess first. So
Maria, and I put all this in the chat in the comments on YouTube, so to book a session. So I did some private sessions with you, some fitness classes, and you're really amazing. and also giving modifications and really get people to, at the level that they're at. So having 10 sessions with you one-on-one is awesome to build like a really great protocol that you can then continue.
Yes.
Thank you so much. In terms of questions we have, right now I see one question, which is like, what if you already have osteoporosis? What can you do? Can you reverse it, or what's your take on that?
Well, so, I'm not going to say that we can reverse it. What we can do is we can actually stop from progressive on a rapid way. So, so we remember I mentioned several ways that we can detect stressors in the body, right? So all those things are impacting your ability to have more osteoblasts and osteoclasts. Right? So we're looking into what can we do? Well, first of all, we look into the basics. How is my exercise? Are we challenging those bones? Okay, so the answer yes, good. So what else can we do? Are we challenging? By the way, doing the same thing over and over and over is not challenge. It's not challenging. So we get to a place, we get uncomfortable, then we get comfortable, we got uncomfortable again. This is growth, right? Mentally, physically, whatever that is, that's how the path for growth is. So we got to think about that. It's a living tissue. So doing the same thing over and over is no good, can maintain it, but depending on the rate and what the age is going to decrease, right? If we're just doing the same thing, but the body is kind of slowly decaying because of age. So one is that. Two is, let's dive into potential other issues that are, interdependent in the body. Right? From the digestion, from oxidative stress, from, our sleep quality that is going to impact, again, the growth and growth hormones and so on. So we have to kind of take a look into a holistic and a more comprehensive approach. So can we do that? Absolutely, you can do that. You just need to know where you stand. And instead of guessing and taking this supplement, that supplement, no, stop, time out. Time out with the craziness and seeing where am I at? You are unique. So you need to understand where you're at. So yes, there is some incredible, improvements on bone density and the fragility of those bones. We have to just put the right feel in the body. Hopefully that answers the question.
No, that's great. And also I think like continued challenge. So my last question, because we're way over time, is so if somebody, let's say, does yoga and plays tennis, which you said doing the same thing is not enough. And obviously when you do yoga, every sequence is different, and you might be doing different peak poses or learning new poses. So but let's say you're playing something like tennis, or I don't know, golf or whatever. So how is that? How can you challenge yourself? Do you have to start new sport all the time, which is, or like, how would you, or would you just add little different exercises every day, do this for 1 week, and then you do something else the next week, or?
Yeah. So first of all, sports is a great thing, right? Because the way I see strength training is to make me better at any sport. And so is flexibility, so, right? The flexibility, right. If I'm not flexible, I'm going to have a problem lifting heavier, I'm sorry. I will have a problem because the muscles are constrained, right? They're like, shrug over here. And we need to stay flexible so we can lift more. Now, by lifting, so let's say you're playing golf or something, there is several muscles involved in that golf. Now, do you want to play better? Probably. Who doesn't, right? And so what can we do over here? We can strengthen the muscles, which is golf is going to be the whole body. Again, from the hips, to the legs, to the ankle mobility, to the lats, to the arm. You see what I'm saying? Shoulder. That's it.
So you're basically saying, adding a different exercise routine to strengthen all those. Yeah, that makes total sense. And then varying that up and changing it around so that you're getting all the different.
Exactly.
So I don't see any more. There's one more question. Is it special just for personal training, or also to see where the testing to see where you're at? I think you're offering a complimentary functional nutrition. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, and I can put the link on the chat if you like to schedule a time, but you can also, email me or text me. But so if you want to discover more about this functional labs, you can have a one-on-one, and then we're gonna, you're gonna have an intake form so I can learn about you, and then we have a conversation, and then we're gonna see, how I can help you, if I can help you, and I'll put that in there. That is a complimentary call as well. So
awesome. Then we're gonna close the YouTube, and then we just have our Clear Vision Club.
There you go.
Thank you so much. And it's also on the YouTube. It's all in the notes. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening. This was super, super interesting. And the live stream is going to end. And I see everybody on YouTube next week. So Maria, any final words to the YouTubers listening?
Oh, no, you're welcome. I also have a podcast. You're welcome to follow me. Here we go, folks. Assess where you're at. Okay, so you can take, you can take the next steps for you, and hug your bones, love your bones. And that means that you got to love yourself, because the body is intertwined, and you want to keep doing what you love for the rest of your life until it's your last day on earth. That's your goal. All right. So everything you do, and from thoughts to foods to beverages, nonverbal communication, verbal communication, all this impacts you. So just be conscious about it and think about, how is that thing that I'm doing, that activity, impacting me? Because impacting you is going to impact your bones at the end of the day, your mobility, your flexibility, your longevity.
I love it. And by the way, somebody said I didn't get the link. It's in there when you scroll on the YouTube, when you scroll down in the description, I put all the links in there. So it's in there. You just have to scroll down. All right, you guys. Bye, YouTube.
Bye.